because we're looking at the Eagles as critically as we can. And we're trying to see what are the things that can hold this team back from winning a Super Bowl possible.
Right.
And we're not finding a lot of things. We're not worried about a lot of things, which is because the Eagles are really good. If they don't play well, there's nothing we can do about that. But are they flawed fatally like the Phillies were last year? And one thing through this first hour we could probably say is they're not fatally flawed.
I don't feel like they're that flawed at all. But I mean, there are some critical things that could happen in games where, kicking wise, I mean, it could be an issue. The numbers are out there. Silvana brought him up. He hasn't been good this year. He's left a lot of points on the table. And when you're doing that, you could call me crazy, call me whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Ask Adam Vinatieri. Ask Tom Brady if they ever need a kicker.
I mean, those are big kicks that were franchise-altering kicks, legacy-altering kicks. Like and beyond the game, these are huge kicks. Like, imagine.
Ask Scott Norwood in the Bills.
Yep, ask Scott Norwood. Ask Randall Cunningham. Imagine Randall Cunningham as the ultimate weapon and all that thing. What if he has a Super Bowl on his resume and Gary Anderson makes that kick?
Yeah, it's completely different.
Like, think about that.
He hadn't missed all year either.
All year. Like, Randall Cunningham, for kids that don't, or maybe too young, like Savannah's obviously too young, and I know some of our audience is, he might have been, outside of maybe Dion or Bo Jackson, like one of the best athletes to ever be born. Like, one of the best athletes to ever. He could do everything on a football field. And he had that Vikings offense rolling at a level, like at the time we had basically never seen. And a kicker is why that team ended up not getting there. You can say other things happen, but other things happen in every football game. So that's something to watch. Huff is something to watch. Now, from the outside, there'll be people who do not question the coordinators at all, but there's still some national people that question head coach Nick Sirianni. In my opinion, if you keep winning at the level he has won, and he has continued to win and win and win, I now have to look at last year differently. At the time, I'm going, how can you be a great leader and let this happen? Now, with the benefit of hindsight, a year later, I go, man, Jason Kelce was on that team. He's a leader. He couldn't stop it. Fletcher Cox was on that team. He was a leader. He couldn't stop it. Jalen Hurts is an excellent leader. He couldn't stop it. I think last year was one of those weird things where it was just going to happen. And I don't know why these weird things happen, but sometimes strange things happen.
Right.
In a positive way, like 93. You can't go back to the 93 Phillies and say why that happened again. You look at that roster in 92, look at that roster in 94, 95, etc. There was no reason why the 93 Phillies happened, but they did. Sometimes strange things happen in the positive. Yeah. Sometimes strange things happen in the negative. And I think that's what I have to do because look at his resume. So to me, when the national media is looking at coaches and they're looking at the better coaches in the playoffs and they don't mention Nick Sirianni, to me that's a manufactured problem. I believe his resume says he's an excellent coach, whether we want to say it or not.
He is. Numbers-wise, you can't complain with it at all. Has he had his moments? Yes. But moments are moments. Moments don't you don't look at a moment in his time period of all these wins that he's thrown together and say, well, do you remember that moment he yelled at the fans? Or do you forget about it?
Right.
There's certain things you could let people can forget about because of how you do as a whole.
Right, and he's winning so much. So to me, because that's another thing, like, right now everybody loves Dan Campbell. He's the greatest thing. He's the awesome.
With the exception of Bill.
Right, but everybody loves. No, I don't love him either. What I'm saying is like right now they're going, oh, no, watch out. McVay got into the postseason. Watch out. Like, yet Nick Sirianni's not spoken about in that thing. In my opinion, is that a real criticism or is that manufactured? That feels manufactured.
That's manufactured. I mean, you know why? Because I think there's certain – let's face it. There's a lot of people out there that see these coaches do what they do. They see Sirianni yelling at fans, and they take that one thing and they put a hatred on him because of that. And I'm sure – nationally, that's the look that he gets, not all the wins that he gets. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with a bunch of coaches. You look at Detroit, same thing with Campbell, McVay. People don't like them. We don't like them here, right?
Yeah.
Because he's giving speeches to his team.
There you go. Now, Ricky's going to identify the station in just a moment. But first, I want to ask, I mentioned before the break that we're going to ask a question, then we're going to get back to the text messages. By the way, the lowest NFC kicker in the playoffs field goal percentage, 80%. Jake Elliott's, of course, 77%. You can make an argument that of the 7 playoff teams, he's the worst kicker this year. That is absolutely a concern that's real and not manufactured. Let's get back to the text messages at 610-632-0975, Silvana.
All right, Frank and Philly, are we crazy? Why are we talking about a kicker? If we have to rely on a kicker to win the playoffs, we have bigger issues. Our offense should be able to get their job done. Stop worrying about Jake. Let's worry about our quarterback and if he can be Hurts himself.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the quarterback, though. Why do you want me to worry about something I'm not worried about?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just being honest. I'm not worried about. If I was worried about Jalen Hurts, I would say it. I'm not worried about Jalen Hurts. That's why I'm not talking about being worried, because I understand how the concussion protocol works, and I don't really worry about rust like that, because they say rust doesn't only come from missing games, it comes from missing practices. Well, he practiced that whole week leading to Washington. Trust me, 2 weeks off of not practicing and then a week practicing, you're not going to be rusty. It's not enough time. It's like in baseball, missing playing a game and then having 2 days off and then come back, you're not rusty. It's not enough time to practice all week, have 2 weeks off, and then practice all week. That's not enough time to be rusty. I'm not concerned about the quarterback. Had it been a month, or if he didn't practice leading up to the Washington game, because people keep forgetting, oh, well, he didn't play that full game. Right, but he prepped that whole week like he was. So it's only 2 weeks off, 1 week back on. I'm not worried.
And it's only the physical mode that he has to get back into. He knows all the plays. He understands where everybody should be. He knows how to read defenses.
Right.
He's okay in that sense.
He's a professional quarterback.
Yeah,
He's a franchise quarterback.
And by the way, he's probably been studying the Packers for probably 2 weeks, not just one.
Right, because they knew he was looking at Washington or Packers film. Then once he found out it was the Packers, you just shift over to the Packers film. Because it was down to just 2 opponents by the time they were able to do their prep for the last game.
Listen,
so he's already been prepping.
There's some NFC teams where you got to worry about your quarterback. The Eagles are not one of them.
No, and I understand the want to sometimes to have an artificial conversation. And I was even talking to you guys about it before the show, where maybe it's to the detriment of me that I won't lie to you. But the reason we're not having the conversation is we understand how the protocol works. Until he misses practice tomorrow, which we don't think he's going to do, for us, it's not a thing yet. And we're not that worried about it or worried about it at all. I'm not saying someone's necessarily manufacturing a conversation if they're worried about it, but if they don't understand concussion protocol, then it is kind of fun. If you don't know the protocol, it's kind of, if you don't know any of the facts, it's hard to have a real conversation at that point.
Yeah. I think a lot of, Andrea Checo said countless amount of times that he was never going to play on Sunday. So there was no rush to get him through the concussion protocol. He was in the building, like CBS said, on Friday.
Right.
Like, there's really nothing to...
It's almost
one of those... He may have been in the building longer, but that was... Because the media's only allowed to watch a small part of practice.
Very small.
They can keep him in a film room somewhere, and then as soon as the media's up out of there... Because he was also there the week before when they gave out the Christmas gifts to all the linemen. He was there to present the gifts.
So I think he was feeling okay.
He was in the building.
Reporters surrounded by this team and have been surrounded by this team not only for this season, but more seasons in general. Not a single one of these beat reporters has expressed concern. I would not express concern.
Right. Ruben Frank went on and said he's talked to everyone in the building and no one's worried. Little Birdie in the building told me that he's fine. That's what I was told. I was told he's fine.
Because he is. I mean, I don't. There is no arguing this.
He's fine.
Everybody's gonna find out that he's gonna be on the practice field tomorrow, and then he's gonna be cleared of protocol on Thursday, and we're not even gonna hear about this again.
No, and then it's just go time. And trust me, we're not gonna let him use any. If for some reason Hurts is bad Sunday, it'll be because he's bad. It's not gonna be because he's rusty. No. We're not going. If he plays bad on Sunday, Ricky and I and Savannah are not going to come in on Monday and go, well, he knocked the rust off. No, we're not. We're going to say he stunk.
He wasn't going to play last week.
Why aren't people at least being like, oh, you know what? He had some time to get off of his feet.
Let that finger heal as well.
Yeah, because he had a finger issue as well. Still listed with it.
By the way, if people don't think he's not throwing a ball around or something, come on.
He is.
No.
Seriously?
Of course he is. No, he's just sitting at home.
It's just out of the eye.
Yeah, he's just not going to do absolutely.
And you're only allowed to do that. And you're only allowed to do that when you're in a concussion protocol. If he wasn't in protocol, there'd be people watching him do his every move. But protocol allows you to be even extra secretive. And you know the Eagles love to be secret.
Ty, we have a funny text.
All right.
Why are you worried about Elliott? He's the best kickers the Eagles had. Stop putting him down because he missed a field goal. He missed 8 and an extra point. You missed 25 points from Jake Elliott.
Was there a name on that?
Period. No.
See, this is my thing.
Why don't you Google it?
This is where Booty was out for this part of it, on the mend. I brought up on the air before that some people, speaking of wrestling, I always defend Shawn Michaels because he was the first wrestler I saw. Because I was never going to be big like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and those guys. I knew my limitations physically. When I saw Shawn Michaels, it was like, I could be that size. I feel like I could be him. Therefore, he's all my favorite. He happens to be the best in-ring wrestler in the history of the world. But I attach to him because I relate to him in a real way. So I couldn't relate with Hulk Hogan.
But that's a fair statement.
Right. I think so many people look at football and they go, I couldn't be Jalen Hurts. I couldn't be Jalen Carter. I couldn't be Cooper the G. But you know who I could be? I could be Jake Elliott. And I think that's why people feel like they have to defend him, because I think a lot of people out there, and this isn't even a knock, I think a lot of people out there have like the soul of a kicker. Like when you were watching baseball, I know you were a position player.
That is 100% a knock.
You're thinking, I could be a ball player, and you turn into one.
Yeah.
Other guys might look at that and go, yeah, I can't do that, so let me relate with somebody else. And
Let me be an umpire.
Right, they
Let
become
me
an
relate to the backup catcher.
Right. Let me relate to Stubbsy. Well, in this particular case, a lot of people in this city who defend them usually, and the other thing we found out when Booty was out, to kind of give a fill-in, how many of those guys were like kind of short? Remember we asked that when they called in, and we were like, how tall? He's like 5'7". And that's why you love Elliott. That's what I think it is. I'm being serious. Because factually, there is no reason to defend him today.
There is all the evidence in the world to be worried about Jake Elliott, and there's little to none about Jalen Hurts because he won a game against Green Bay Packers in Brazil after not playing in the preseason at all, with a new offensive coordinator, a new running back.
New everything.
There was a young defense out on the field.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
They still won the game. So thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. If you want more of this content, make sure you like and subscribe. And you know you can do that kind of over here if you want more of the best show ever.